Hey everybody, welcome back to another MRA Security YouTube video. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some source code to see if we can identify a server-side template injection vulnerability. So in today's episode, we're going to be doing Hack the Box challenges. We'll be doing two today, the flag command as well as Spookifier. These are both retired machines, and you can do them right now on Hack the Box if you want to. After that, we'll be diving into a couple of additional boxes throughout this series, but they do require VIP. So if you don't have VIP, you probably won't be able to do it, but at least you could potentially learn something new. So let's jump right into it. So the first one is flag command, and we see here that we could just start the instance. So we can copy the host over to our URL, and we could just take a look at what we have. And it looks like there is a bunch of terminal text that are coming through. This is most likely JavaScript on the front end that is performing this action. And we see here that it's some form of terminal. It says punch and start to kick things off in this twisted adventure. So we could just type in start and we could see what it shows. And you wake up in a forest and you have four options. So we can either head north, south, east, or west. We could try to just play this game and see if it brings us anywhere special. And it looks like it's just additional text that we really don't have too much to work with here. So we could try to just look at the page source like we always do with any CTF. And we could see a couple of things. The first is there's a bunch of custom JavaScript files that we could take a look at. So let's just copy each one over to a separate tab. And we'll see if there's anything going on in here. So looking at it, it looks like it's just trying to see if hack the box and then a squiggly bracket is in place. And if it is, that means that we did retrieve the flag. And that's going to /API/monitor. But it doesn't look like that we're going to be able to do anything with this anyway, just because we're checking the message, it gets the secret. So it looks like that there is an available option secret here that we can use. What else do we have? Is there anything else, or is this really all that's left in this file? Down here, it looks like that there is also another API call, so API/options. And we just saw previously in the other JavaScript that there is a secrets option potentially. Right here in available options, it says secrets. So what we could do is we could just head on over to our URL and we'll just paste in this GET request to see what is going on. Let's click enter and we could see that there is a secret. We do have the secret here. And what we could do is we'll just go back to the flag command, which is our Docker instance. We'll paste it in, click enter, and we could see here that we do retrieve the first flag. So the second challenge that we're going to be taking a look at is called Spookifier, because since it's Halloween coming up, decided that this is probably appropriate for an October video. So we'll be taking a look at Spookifier, and there are downloaded files. So before I even try to touch the application, I always like to look at the source code when it comes to these kind of challenges just to see what is going on. So looking at the Docker file, we can spin this up on our local host and we could try to solve this challenge locally and then transfer it back over to the actual host that they develop for us. But because this challenge is quite simple, there's no need to do that. When we get to more difficult challenges, we're going to need to use the Docker container to see what's going on in the back end as well as the front end code. But for now, we're going to not use Docker in this instance. We'll just take a look at the Docker file to see what's going on. And whenever you see something like flag.txt inside of the Docker file, chances are that means you're going to need to look for a local file inclusion, RCE, something that has to do with server-side rendering or server-side attacks. So in this case, we're going to be looking at server-side template injection. We know for a fact that we have either an LFI or in this case, it'll be an SSTI. But we can start taking a look at each file just to see what's going on. So in here, the host is being set to 1.3.7, and inside of the Docker container, it would also reflect that here. So we would have to, if we were to spin it up, you would have to go to localhost 1.3.7 because that's going to be the open port that it's going to give us. We'll continue down the line and look at util. And we could see here that there is a massive string of information or array of information. It looks like just a bunch of different fonts. And we can go down to the function and take a look at what's going on. So we have generate render, and this just looks like it's going to generate whatever we're trying to do, which I guess is converting the fonts. We're going to template that. We're going to change font. So this is just going to loop through everything within those arrays that we saw previously. And then Spookify, it's going to call the change font and then showcase it in the render. So looking at the top here though, we could see that it is using the Mako templating engine. And something that you can also do is if you go back to the Docker file, you can see that it is also using the Flask Mako. So whenever you see Mako or you see Ginger 2 inside of a Flask application, you always want to check for server-side template injection. So now that we know that it is generating a template and then spitting it out on the index.html, something important to note here is that there is no sanitization within the user input. So when a user inputs the text, it just gets rendered into all the different kinds of fonts, and then it shows and displays onto the front end. So now that we have a little bit more of a background and an understanding about what is going on with the source code of this application, let's head on over to the application with the information that we know and see if we can get RCE onto this box. So we could just type in something like testing just to see what's going on, click Spookify, and we can see that the first three are not real text. They're just different kinds of characters. But then if you look at the bottom here, it is ASCII characters, right? We could read everything pretty smoothly, easily. So what we could do is we could head on over to payload all the things, and we'll just type in something like SSTI Mako, and then payload all the things. And we can go over to server-side template injection, Python. And when we scroll down a little bit, we could see Mako. And we see here that there is a payload here that we could probably use. So we'll just copy this over and paste it in. So what we're going to have to do instead is, because there's this new line here, we're going to have to do a few things. Number one is, after we copy and paste it into here, we're going to need to put in a semicolon inside of this, because in order to get this Python to work, you need to put a semicolon in place to indicate that there's going to be another line after that. If you don't do that, you'll need a new line, but because we're only using one line, we're going to need to make this into a one-liner. So this is how to do it, is just by putting in a semicolon, and then we're going to leave, I think, everything else the same. Everything else looks correct. So now if we do Spookify, and we'll just copy this quick, if we do Spookify, we could see that we are root on the system. So what we could do is, because we already know where the flag is being located because of that Docker file, we could do something like cat and then /flag.txt. Click on Spookify, and we can see here that we did retrieve the flag. Template injection can exist anywhere. So that was it for this episode. Very straightforward, very easy to work with. I just wanted to give you guys a little sense of my methodology when it comes to looking at source code for CTFs like this, but there's going to be plenty of other challenges that we're going to be doing. But if you did enjoy, please let me know in the comment section down below, and please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.